Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, welcome to Marrakech. Bienvenue to this very special conversation. I'm Jason Solomons. What a pleasure to be with you today. And we have got a real treat for you today. If you're a fan of world cinema, which of course you are because you're here in Marrakech, we're going to see films from some of the great filmmakers of the last 50 years. I'm talking about Nick Roeg, Bernardo Bertolucci, Nagisa Oshima. We're going to have a treat, a special treat for you from Italy, which is a sneak preview. We're going to look at stars including David Bowie, Deborah Winger, John Malkovich, Teresa Russell, Art Garfunkel, an extraordinary array of talent, which is gathered here all because of the passionate and fantastic long work that my guest today, the guest of the Marrakech International Film Festival, has done. So would you please welcome the man who's bringing all that talent to the screen, legendary producer, the last emperor of British film himself, Jeremy Thomas. Jeremy, please follow us to the interview hotspot.
We'll stand at 1 second to this. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Jeremy, please, if you've got your microphone there.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Just the last photographs. Right, everybody. This is going to be a real pleasure. So I'm going to talk to Jeremy. We've got loads of clips to get through. You're going to see some fantastic films and hear the stories about them, because it's been an incredible life. And to be fair, Jeremy, it's a life in movies, isn't it? Literally born into the movies.
Yeah, I was born in Ealing in 1949. My father directed his first film in 1949 in Ealing Studios whilst I was being born. So that was literally that. And then I grew up in a household making films. My father directed 40 films.
Your father directed 40 films?
Yeah, 40 films, of which 38 were hits. And he was a very successful UK director. And my uncle, Gerald Thomas, directed all the Carry On films.
So the Carry On films, they're very specifically British properties. I don't know if everyone in the world knows the Carry On films, but they're particular.
They're a particular type of comedy. I think there were 32 made, longest running series, I think. And so I was very lucky to grow up in that. And I didn't know what I was in, like I was a child and grew up in that. But then when I went to school, I was a very, very bad student, but I was thinking about movies, everything. I was drawing little things of films. And it was my dream, not to be a train driver like Dad. I wanted to be a film director like Dad.
Are we okay? Can we all hear Jeremy? You might need to bring your mic just there we go.
Okay, sorry.
There we go, that's okay.
I always wanted to be in the movies, and when I left school, 17, with very little to show, I went straight into the movie business.
And was there you said your father and your uncle making a lot of movies, but was there a film industry in England as such? I mean, it was quite gigantic.
There was a gigantic industry with about 20 working studios and cinemas full. And for a young man coming into the film business, there was plenty of employment for you. And after you sort of graduated into the union, it was a very unionized business after a year in the laboratories, it was full of work for me. And I ended up in the editing rooms, worked on lots of fantastic films with Ray Harryhausen. I was an assistant editor, and Harder They Come. And then I started working as an assistant editor for Ken Loach.
So Ken Loach, you went to work with him, or he employed you?
No, I was working with an editor who was Ken Loach's editor, who took me onto this film with Ken. And my eyes were opened to another politics and another world, coming from a pretty privileged background and a private school. I suddenly, I was in the sort of completely the counter of that, the opposite. And I saw something different in life, and it was very, I did 4 years, I think 3 or 4 years with him, and I ended up being his editor. And that was a real gift for me to see something like, to give me all that.
So from working with Ken Loach, could you see how to get politics into the films?
Well, I didn't, not on purpose. It wasn't something that I was sort of an ideology that I wanted to do political films which involved politics. But of course, I loved films. I ended up loving films which involved politics in a certain way. But that informed what I call my hard drive. We all have a hard drive, and that obviously gave something to me when I was making the choices of the films that I wanted to do or the people that I wanted to work with.
The fact that you were an editor and learned the craft of editing, how much did that influence you when you came to be a producer? It seems to me that that's the inside craft of film. You instinctively know the rhythm of film as a producer then.
Well, I mean, I was intending to be a director, so I honed in on having worked in the camera assistant and other things on the film set. Okay, editing is where I can look at movies being made, and it was, something which obviously stayed with me. That enjoyment, maybe it's for some directors it's the most enjoyable area. The editing, something which is very difficult to shoot. The editing is pleasurable. You're sitting in a room with a friend and putting together with music and sound and the rhythm of your film. It's a very nice moment in the filmmaking process.
Yeah. I think we should get straight into a clip, ladies and gentlemen, because the first clip that we're going to see, I think, it sets us all up. It sets Jeremy up. It sets us up because it's a clip that you will immediately be familiar with. But it's the sounds and the editing and the style and the music of it that I think is pretty much Jeremy Thomas in microcosm, and really the Marrakech Film Festival in microcosm. So we'll start with the first clip. We're going back to 1980 and the Nick Roeg film, Bad Timing.
I've been shopping.
New York?
I have an option to renew my contract with the university, which I won't. But I say we go back, we get married, we build something solid together.
What about now?
What do you mean now?
Here, right now, this minute, this second. Look where we are.
Milena, did you miss that I asked you just now to marry me?
No.
Well, what are you talking about? I'm asking you to marry me. What are you...
I've loved these days. I've loved them.
I don't get it. Well, weren't you happy?
Yes.
You have to be happy.
I am
I felt
happy.
it.
I was happy.
It can be that way from
I
now
am
on.
happy. When I'm with you, I'm with you. I love being with you.
Milena, what does that mean, with me, not with me? You have a husband you don't want, but you...
My own life, my own time. You can be a part of it, the biggest part of it. You are the biggest part of it. I love you. Come on. Okay. Look at where we are.
I am looking at that clip again. I just noticed the idea that Nick put in, that when Art Garfunkel, he speaks without his lips moving. And this is fantastic, that Nick, he wanted to put another line in, and he put in what he was thinking when he didn't say. And there was, this is was something which was incredible to see, and it was wonderful to see a filmmaker working like that.
I said it sort of sums you up, but there's exoticism. Well, for us it's exotic. Perhaps for you here it's not so exotic. It's just down the road. But for people in London and Paris, it's quite exotic to see Marrakech. The storytelling, the editing, the music, I suppose it's the entire bag that you get in film to tell this story, to move this story of passion on. How did you work with Nick Roeg? Because it seems to me he was the most extraordinary British filmmaker.
Yeah, well, he's my favorite. Well, he named my favorite film, which is Performance. When I was, Nick was 20 years old, nearly 20 years older than me. But when before I was working virtually, I used to hang around looking at this film set, Mick Jagger and James Fox and Anita Pallenberg shooting this story, and it was like the hippest place on the planet. There was nowhere more cool than being near that. And then he was my, every film that Nick Roeg made, Performance, Wow, Walkabout, Man Who Fell to Earth. I mean, this is so extraordinary, films one after another. And before I made The Shout, which Skolimowski directed, I asked Nick to do it. And I was a boy, and he was busy doing other films. And then after The Shout got a good success at Cannes, I went back to Nick and said, listen, I really love to do a movie with you. Can we do something together? And he was making Flash Gordon at the time with De Laurentiis. And he said, listen, there's another film I want to make, but Carlo Ponti owns the rights. So it's called Illusions, which is in fact called Bad Timing now. And so I got on a plane, I didn't have very much money, and I went to see Carlo Ponti. And he said, okay, you can have this, give me $25,000. And I found the money, sent him the money, and he sent me the rights, and that came to Bad Timing. And at that very moment, De Laurentiis and Nick Roeg fell out in a spectacular way, and Nick was available to make Bad Timing. And so it was, timing, good timing, really.
Good timing gave you bad timing. Yeah, so that's what a producer does. They go to a big Italian producer and say, oh, here's £25,000, I've now got the rights. Is that how you've operated as a producer, or is it different for every project?
Well, they're all different, really, but I grew up in the spirit of being an independent producer and not following the set tracks. And being independent means that, and it's being independent of thought and independent of others. And if you can manage that, it's a good way for me. It worked out. That was the way that I learned to make films, and I watched others making films like that, and then I graduated to doing it myself.
How was it working in Marrakech, filming in the Jama Al Fana?
Well, that was that film was made in pre-fax. There wasn't even faxes. I remember sitting by the telex in the Mamounia without any money, and telexing the only way to get, because there was very bad weather, we couldn't get out. Something of a storm, and we had to pay another day of the bills. And I had to telex the operator, please send cash immediately. That was a communication. No, couldn't get the phone out, or whatever. So that was making the film like that. It was totally analog. The whole beginning of my filmmaking career is analog. It didn't think, and my brain hasn't fully morphed into thinking of things, looking at a location and imagining another location, because I can digitally enhance it. And I'm always looking for the reality to shoot in. If I can still, even today, I'll do the minimal digital work on a film I can. And not for economy, for the texture.
Yeah. You worked with Nick Roeg on Bad Timing, and then on Eureka after that, and one more, Insignificance, after that. How does that relationship work as a producer with a great director like Nick? Is there a sort of set amount of times you can work together before you
I suppose until you get fed up with each other, or run out of ideas. But Nick was another teacher for me. I was still in I suppose you graduate, you're always learning, but you graduate from being a sort of student into being a teacher. And then I was still in my teaching mode. I mean, being taught, I was absorbing lots of things from him about humanity and relationships between human beings and how low it can go, basically. And I enjoyed understanding about that, and it was extreme. It was very extreme. All the life at that time and the relationships in that time were very strong. In fact, I was with Harvey Keitel the other night, who was in Bad Timing, and we were talking about the raw emotions of that film.
Because they were raw on screen, they were quite raw off screen as well.
Raw on and off, yeah. I mean, super raw. You know, you start a movie, you're locked into a movie for, say, 13 weeks, and then something happens. And it puts a stress in a film which can be good or bad, but you're locked in because you have to stay with the film. You can't just recast. Well, you can do Buñuel and you can recast a completely different actress in the middle of the film, but normally you're absolutely locked in to.
But it is a film about obsessive love and a film about love affairs and passions, and they spill off on screen and off screen.
You know, life imitated the art, and imitated the art, and imitated the life on that. And on many films I've done that's happened, that somehow the film reflects what's happening in the life.
And you as a producer, when you see these things happening with these artistic types, is your job to encourage that so that it makes the film better, or is it to sort of dampen it down and make sure that everyone gets back and does their job?
No, I mean, I like to make sure that the film gets finished and is good, but within that, there's a natural life a film has. It has a life of its own. If it's made in the independent spirit, and it's only you and them, as a producer, you found the money, you have freedom with what you're doing, and you allow it to happen. And I'm, you know, so I'm quite broad in my tolerances, and I encourage even certain sort of things around a film to make it freedom of expression, freedom of artistic expression, which is it sounds crazy, but it's something which is really needed in a film, and I'm sure every filmmaker here cries out for that.
Well, the people that were financing the movie said when they saw it, it was a sick film made by sick people for sick people. And I think this is the old definition of sick, not like
No, it was
sick.
quite humiliating, actually, because it had a rank organization who put the money in, and they took the logo off. They refused to have their logo on the film, you know, and then it was a bit tragic at the time, the reviews. But many films that I've done, like the films with Cronenberg and other filmmakers, which people still absolutely feel for, at the time, they get a very rough ride when you open them up and start off, and people are completely shocked. And it happened which we can talk about. In fact, there's a clip of a film which really put me in the doghouse for some time. You know.
Yes, I mean, that's why I say this film, Bad Timing Is You in a nutshell. It has everything that then followed you with controversy as well. Was it controversy or, you know, morality, something that you sought to push the envelope
Yeah,
for?
probably I did, and I do. And what's the point of being independent if you're going to do what everybody else does? I mean, the idea of, in my independent spirit, the idea of that is to be able to inhabit a place where others fear to go with a commercial enterprise. That's, and you have to convince the others that you're not mad and your collaborators are very good and that you are going to take off something audacious. But that has been difficult in some ways, but it's been a very enjoyable path for me.
Yeah, I think it's partly why we're here. Now, if anyone wants to accuse us of bad timing, I think we should move on to the next clip, where there is a Nick Rogue connection as well. Of course, the star of Nick's The Man Who Fell to Earth is the star of Jeremy's 1982 film, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. We're in a Japanese prisoner of war camp.
Furio, it's called Furio in French.
In French, it's called Furio,
Yeah.
which is good, but they always change the
Which
name.
means prisoner of war.
Ah. So, yeah, a very different title. We're in 1982, and we are in the hands of director Nagisa Oshima.
He's dead! Get up! Get over here! of the British Air Force, how many experts in weapons and guns do you have in your group? None, sir.
Again, extraordinary location, extraordinary sound, extraordinary music. Two music stars at the center there, Sakamoto acting and doing the score, and David Bowie facing off each other. Was that always the way to make a different war movie, in a way, have these two artists from different spheres in there?
No, it was a fabulous coming together of East and West. I met Oshima in the year of the shout at Cannes and exchanged business cards with him. And he later sent me a 185-page script. And then I met him in 1980 in Tokyo and decided to make this film. And he initially wanted Robert Redford to play Bowie's part. And he saw a blue-eyed god. And it was a sort of love story, men-on-men love story. In that ambience, there was love of a man, admiration of a man, of the character of David Bowie, Jacques Cellier's JC, Jesus Christ, blonde with blonde and blue-eyed, and we couldn't find a Redford for this part, but I arranged to meet Bowie in London, and he knew all about Oshima. He knew every Oshima movie, but he knew Empire of the Senses, Ceremony, Death by Hanging, because believe me, this director Oshima, who's a bit hidden today, he was one of the greatest ever, and very radical, super radical for Japan, and I had a fantastic relationship with him doing this film, and it was lucky, and it began a big thing for me, a big relationship with Sakamoto, with many film scores on films in the future and acting, and with Kitano, and it was a fantastic thing for me. It sort of was a very fertile moment, and I love taking 200 people to a distant location and arranging
Where did you shoot?
This was shot in Rarotonga in the Cook Islands, expediently because of a tax deal in New Zealand, and I could find palm trees and a sort of Tahitian background sort of thing here. So this came under New Zealand, and I could find tax money in New Zealand, and it was expedient. A lot of churches are like that because you know when you're looking for cash, but this was suitable, perfectly suitable for the location, and we built. That was a very interesting set. I'll be quick. We didn't have any money to make the film with, and never have enough money to make films with, and the designer said, "Hey, listen, there's some greenhouses here. I'll construct a couple of buildings quickly, and then the rest of the set will just be our crew making the rest of the sets in tents." Oh, that's an incredible idea, you know. And that was a sort of idea of economy. You don't have to build the set, but you've got no idea the set's not there, because it's sort of sleight of hand and the tricking of the eye, which is the magic of, and then I love that. You see that, yeah.
And you all stayed there. David Bowie, one of the biggest stars in the world.
We all had 8 or 9 weeks. And I know Jack Thompson were there, many Australian actors, and
So Jack Thompson, who's the commander we see there, he's going to be here this afternoon, here representing the Australian film. He might even be here in the audience. But
Captain Hicksley Ellis, enjoyed working with him, and I enjoyed on the first film I ever did. Jack was one of the stars with Dennis Hopper and Mad Dog, so I remained very close with Jack, and he's a wonderful actor and a wonderful person to have on a movie set, especially if you're in the Cook Islands.
And Bowie, he was just about to do the Serious Moonlight. He was experiencing.
He left there with some of the crew to do Serious Moonlight. Yeah.
So he'd already had that. He was just about to become. Let's Dance was just about to come back.
He was leading up to that, and he went to Australia and he shot that from there.
Which presumably gave the film quite a boost in terms of its popular culture.
Yeah. It was a big sensation around the opening of the film, and it was very David Bowie with all that culture around, and Oshima. It was very exotic.
It's a beautiful film, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, and I don't know if it's your first.
My first hit.
Your first big hit.
Yeah.
And the first sort of foot in the Japanese Asian market.
When I look at it now, all these films, sort of River of Life is really River of Life, and this film led me to Bernardo because he loved Oshima, he loved this film. It was shot in the South Pacific with Asia, and his brother-in-law, Mark Peplow, who was a close friend of mine, who had written The Passenger and other films. And I got a call, would you like to have lunch? Yeah. I said, let's meet at a Chinese restaurant.
In London?
In London, in Lee Ho Fook, and we had a nice lunch, and he said, funny you chose Chinese, I've got Chinese for you. And then that was From Emperor to Citizen, the book, which turned into The Last Emperor, permission from China to have the Forbidden City, and the rest is up on the screen.
The rest is up on the screen. It's called The Last Emperor. It won this man the Best Picture Oscar at the 1987 Oscars. It's called The Last Emperor. We've got a really fantastic clip from nearer the end of The Last Emperor, but with crowd scenes and politics coming into this. Let's have a look at Jeremy.
This is a very emotional scene for me to watch.
It's emotional for you to watch. Well, let's watch it and then find out quite why it chimes so emotionally with it. It's The Last Emperor that Jeremy Thomas produced.
The sound is very low. Oh, sorry, the sound is very low.
The Red Guard.
They are so young.
It is dangerous.
Look, over there. Puchen, look! It is the governor of our prison.
It cannot be.
It is. I'm sure it is.
Be careful. Come back.
万岁！王喜万岁！造反有理！造反有理！一反到底！一反到底！
Comrade, this must be a mistake. I know this man. He is a good man.
Who are you?
I am a gardener.
Join us, comrade, or fuck off. 造反有理，一反到底。王喜万岁！反有理。
But what has he done?
He's been accused.
Accused of what?
Emperor's lucky. Within his element. Rotten righteous. Confess your crime.
Nothing to confess.
Cut out to my mouth. Confess your crimes.
Nothing to confess.
Cut out.
造反有理！造反有理！一反到底！
Confess your crime.
Wait! He is a teacher. He is a good teacher.
You
cannot do this to him.
Move. You want to beat him?
He is a good teacher.
Crowd scenes, red flags, and what we see in the clips that we've seen so far, Jeremy, is there's always a tussle with a power structure. It seems there's always an ebb and flow, which is the key of your dramas. There's always someone pushing for something and then someone reacting against it.
Well, you know, I was incredibly lucky to work with the master. You know, that filmmaking is incredible.
Is it Bernardo?
Yeah, it's awesome to watch something like that, and I miss him very much all the time.
It's emotional for you to see your work with Bernardo and Nick Rogue, both of whom passed away almost within days of each other, just earlier this year. Are the memories of them, though, that because you miss them, the memories because that sort of cinema is not there anymore?
It was still perfect. I mean, that was perfect for me. You know, everything's perfect. And I was satisfied, fully satisfied with what we'd put together and freedom that we managed to do that in. And it couldn't have been any other way, because nobody could conceive that you could do such a thing. It was an impossible mission to go and shoot a film in China with tens of thousands of people. And you can be free, we can be free.
And these are all extras, none of them are CGI.
They were all, you know, they didn't know about Mao at all. We had to bring in Mao badges from Berlin, you know, really. So in China, it had been eradicated, and we had to recreate that, and they gave us the permission to shoot that in front of the Great Hall of the People. And the next scene in the movie is a traffic light, which is green, and everybody stops at the traffic light, and it turns red, and everybody leaves. There were thousands of accidents in the cities in China after they decided, okay, we're changing everything. Green means red and red means green. It's beautiful.
There's so much beauty in that movie that you forget that there's a lot of politics in it and a lot of emotion in it. It's a film about the shifting generations.
Yeah, well, it's like from Emperor to Citizen is an incredible idea. Can a man change? You know, be born a most powerful man on the planet, you know, son of heaven, emperor of quarter of the world's population, and then die as a gardener. You know, very amazing story.
It won, I think, 9 Oscars.
Yeah, 9 Academy Awards.
Just
yeah.
the 9 Oscars. What, I mean, that doesn't happen to many films, and it doesn't happen to many people.
You didn't think about such a thing, and it was in a different era, and there was no parties and free, or not, well, you didn't have to do, there was no publicity, we didn't do any canvassing or anything. It was
no Oscar campaign.
Oh yeah, I think we had a couple of dinners, with old guys in the Academy. I think we went out to the old people's home in downtown LA. We were told that's the best place to get the votes, and you had we had screenings there, things like that, and but then that happened, and it was something which has to change my life and change my career really, because it was such a bolt from the blue. Hey, you don't think that's going to happen, and it happened, and then it sort of has been with me as a blessing and a curse ever since.
What happens when you win an Oscar? That night, that day, the next day?
I don't know. I had a speech in my pocket thanking my dad and all the people I meant to thank, and I just sort of went up, and you sort of dragged up by some sort of life force, and sitting in front of Hollywood, in front of you, thousands of lights, and I blurted something out, which I listened to back, and it's quite poetic. It was just sort of like a plea for independence and independent cinema, the same old path that I've been on. And it was happy, and we were very decadent in those days, and we didn't go to any after party. We went to our own private party, about 50 of us, and there's this special party there at Spargo given by Swifty Lazar, and we refused, and there were limousines coming, got to come, and all the Oscars were up at our house, this house. Nando Scarfiotti, this great designer who designed The Last Emperor and The Shooting Sky, and many Visconti movies. We had a party at his house. It was very sweet, and it went on. I can't remember the next day.
Those are the good parties.
Yeah, but I went to Jamaica, actually. I went to Jamaica after that. I spent 2 weeks in Jamaica. And it was when I got back to London, somebody else had claimed that they won the Oscar. It was fantastic. It was, it was a completely different era. There was no information.
You were quite young when you won it. 32 or something like that?
I was, I was about 37, I think, 37.
So for a producer in charge of a major production, it was quite a feat, really, this epic production, really.
Yeah, back in a period of megalomania, sort of, we can do anything, which led to the next movie, which was, anything you want. I did another movie after that. Yeah, I think I did another movie and then...
But doesn't Hollywood then come knocking the big studios and say, look, here you go, here's a big, effects movie. We're in the 80s.
The next week was, and I had to get out because it was doing my head in that everybody wanted, offer me jobs and do you want to run this, do you want to do that? Because if somebody thinks that you know something that they don't know, they want to get hold of you. But I didn't know anything, and I couldn't work in that sort of environment.
Yeah.
And but The Sheltering Sky, which we shot half in Morocco, was Paul Bowles' book, which everybody wanted to make, and even Nick Rogue, during Bad Timing, had put Sheltering Sky as a book that Teresa Russell was reading in the film, and he wanted to make it, and I tried to get the rights from Warner Brothers, who had owned it with Robert Aldrich, and I couldn't get them. And then after The Last Emperor, they came knocking. Would Bernardo, and would you do this film? And we remained an independent film for us.
Yes.
And but they had the American and I think English language rights, and we had the rest of them.
So it took a couple of years to get all that sorted out, and then get the script right, and then scout the locations of the next film we're going to see, The Sheltering Sky. We're back in Morocco.
A couple of years, 2 years later, it was a huge preparation because Paul Bowles' film, Paul Bowles' book is on a journey from Tangier right into the heart of Niger to go to Niger, and we did the real journey through with hundreds of people through Morocco, then through Algeria, and then to Agadez. And it was a fantastic journey.
Well, we're going to be at the start of that journey, and we're going to be talking about the nature of Journey. It's Bernardo Bertolucci and Jeremy Thomas producing 1990, The Sheltering Sky, or as it's known here in France, or here in Morocco, Thé au Sahara.
Well, terra firma.
We're probably the first tourists they've had since the war.
Tunner, we're not tourists, we're travelers.
Oh. What's the difference?
A tourist is someone who thinks about going home the moment they arrive, Tunner.
Whereas a traveler might not come back at all.
You mean I'm a tourist?
Yes, Tunner. And I'm half and half.
Fankum, yalla, 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 Banu, 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 Aji, 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 Aji. Prenez la valise. Oh, oui, hein? Oui, oui, monsieur. Oui, oui.
L'argent à quoi?
Attention!
Tu as oublié quelque chose.
Aji, Aji, Aji.
So, of course, looking at that clip, it's interesting to me because it was no digital, you know. We were there, Tangier, 1990, and we were in 1945, no, 1946, you know, so it was, if you were just an old crane and a brilliant camera move. I mean, what a camera move. Wow, you know.
It's beautiful when we see Tangier rise in the mist and the journey is about to start. That line, a tourist thinks about home as soon as they get, and a traveller thinks about. Where were you as a filmmaker in terms of your travelling?
I'm now restricting my. I don't like being a tourist. I really hate that. And I'm lucky that my films help me to travel. And when I go there, I'm travelling with a purpose, you know. And that's a very nice place to be. So I feel like a traveller, and obviously I was a tourist, but I don't have the time now, or don't have the desire to be tourism. It's I don't know. Again, that is.
But you've always seemed to have understood the culture very importantly, the Japanese culture, the Chinese culture, the Moroccan culture.
Well, the very it's one of the blessings of what I'm doing, what I've done, is that I get exposed to all that, you know, and then lap it up, you know, as much as I can, and enjoy the shooting and continue with the films, which happily, you know, I'm based in London, but they're happily taking me all over the world, you know, and I'll go back and regroup and then think about the next mission, you know.
I mean, it looks like a mission. It's almost like a film crew arriving in Tangier with the luggage, and you know, you're setting off about to conquer. What was working in Tangier like? Because you also did the Naked Lunch with David Cronenberg.
Funnily, before we shot this movie, I'd met David Cronenberg and I'd bought the rights to Naked Lunch, which was a preposterous idea. But you know, his body horror movies at the time, and Naked Lunch, and I'd read Naked Lunch, and it was like a flash of lightning. And then we came to Tangier with William Burroughs and my friend Hercules and Cronenberg, and we came to go do a sort of atmospheric pilgrimage through Tangier with Burroughs. It was amazing. People still recognized him in his hat and his cane. And we started preparing the film in Tangier, to shoot in Tangier, and then the Gulf War happened, and the insurance was pulled, and the money was, I couldn't complete the finance because the completion bond, you know, I couldn't, and there was a travel advisory not to come, and I had to take the film away. But strangely, the film turned incredible because we shot Tangier in Toronto High Street, just put limousine and camel going by, and a couple of jalaba. And nobody realized you weren't in Tangier. It was incredible. Nobody mentioned once, oh, the film, the time they accepted it. That was very informative to me as well. That. Some translights, which is sort of big photographs, shooting at the big photograph, and you can imagine you're anywhere.
Well, it is a work of great imagination, the Naked Lunch, after all. Yeah. So William Burroughs, obviously based on Paul Bowles as well,
yeah,
two
Paul Bowles,
huge...
At that time, I'd already was going to commence this film, and we were in Tangier with William Burroughs, and he was staying in this incredible old hotel, the Windsor Hotel, and Burroughs had wanted to stay here, but when he was down and out in Tangier, he was sleeping on the beach as a junkie, and he was staying there, and he wanted to invite Paul Bowles for tea, because it was the best thing he could do, is invite Paul Bowles to the Windsor. But in fact, Paul Bowles said, "Come, why don't you come with David and Jeremy, come to have tea with me?" And so we went around with William Burroughs, and there were about 6 of us. And there was Mohammed Marabat, who was his colleague, who was partner, who was a Moroccan poet there, and William Burroughs, and Bowles, perfect in cashmere, dressed like out of a London salon, you know, perfect. And offered mint tea, and then at a certain point he turned to Burroughs and he said, "William, yeah, little Keith now." And there were these old boys in front of us. It was magnificent.
That's what you want from a Paul Burroughs, William Burroughs, Paul Bowles.
It delivered 100%. You know. And then went on to do Naked Lunch. Yeah.
So yes, so the Naked Lunch came out of that. Then the Sheltering Sky, which is an absolutely beautiful movie. For me, your most beautiful movie, the stars and the dunes. I mean, the exotic. I mean, it's a film that made me want to travel.
And it was an extraordinary mission, taking people to Agadez, you know. And we had hundreds of people in Agadez making this film and shooting the reality.
Yeah. Did you get lost in the desert? Were there dangers?
Well, you know, we did a journey. I did a journey, but in fact, we flew from Algeria. It was very difficult to get across the border between Morocco and Algeria, but we managed somehow to do it. And in fact, Zakaria is here with, maybe he's here, Zakaria Alawi, you had Zakaria, he helped me a lot on this film and the Jim Jarmusch film I later made in Tangier. And we somehow got across the border, and we got a plane, and we got to Agadez. But I did that drive we did the Jimbanado, and I did that drive from Tangier to Agadez across the desert. It was amazing. And, and then finding this place, which is in the movie is so strong, the locations, and then we got all that beautiful the valley in Morocco, and it was fantastic shooting here, and taking all that back on the beautiful Storaro CinemaScope. You know.
You mentioned Storaro and the CinemaScope and the size of the movies there we're talking about, and just because of the beauty of them, it makes me wonder if cinema now can still capture that expanse. I don't know if it's the digital age, or maybe it's the screens are getting smaller.
Well, I'm trying, you know, but it's the opposite. I mean, it's like Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard, you know. It's the movies that got small. Well, then our screens got small. I mean, Scorsese is complaining, as I am bitterly complaining, that people even want to see a film on an iPhone. I mean, it's an insulting idea to our work. But
The Last Emperor on an iPhone.
Yeah, but hey, that's it. You know, it's like that's happened, and you have to swallow it and absorb it somehow. And I'm currently in that sort of digestive phase about how am I going to deal with this, because it's not what I want, not what I dreamt of. You know, I dreamt originally of a sort of group of people emoting together in a darkened room, watching something incredible. And then it's been reductive in my point of view, but that's getting old. You know, It Was Better in My Day is the classic. It's like Pinnochio's nose. If you lie, your nose is going to grow. You know, it's in reverse. I don't know. Something's happened in reverse for me, but that's a reality I have to deal with because it's it's where we are.
Yeah. It seems to me that you can do epic cinema as well, but then you can have a big cinema of ideas. And although we're going to jump forward slightly to another David Cronenberg movie here, I don't want to. We're going to miss out working with Johnny Depp on The Brave. You work with Agnes Varda as well. It seems many people you work with passed away very recently.
Lots with Wim.
And Wim Wenders, yeah. But you work with Agnes on her big epic.
Yeah, I work with Agnes, yeah.
So we miss her as well. But you can have the cinema that is full of ideas, and I think Crash from 1996.
That was again joining together ideas. You know, I'm very Ballardian. So, I can use Ballardian. Yeah. He's a great, but J.G. Ballard. I recommend any word he wrote. if his criticism is short stories, his novels, he's a genius. You know, he's the best. He's my master. You know, for that. And I made 2 films from his novels, and I have got an itch for a third.
Yeah.
He was a prophet about life. And
you made High Rise with Ben Wheatley.
Ben recently made High Rise with Ben Wheatley, and Cronenberg and I joined. Let's do Crash, which was really an impossible idea, but you know, the extremes of life exist, and why can't we show our camera, show it to people, to you know, to G them up a bit. You know, hang on, it's not all like that. Some of it's like this. Yes. And I was thrilled with the film, and I was completely shocked, and I was really in the doghouse, literally in the doghouse. I became a dog man after this film, because it was like pariah in the UK. I couldn't show my face anywhere. People sort of shied away from this maniac who produced this film, or enabled this film.
It was called Depraved.
Yeah, a film beyond the bounds of depravity, a depravity headline on the Daily Mail and the Evening Standard, and it was all the main trash papers trashed us. But that was and it was taken by politicians and banned in the UK, banned in London. This film, it's still banned.
It's still banned.
It's still banned.
It's
but
still banned.
Yet it's been shown on Channel 4.
Right.
After 10 o'clock.
Let's defy the city of Westminster with their ban, because you can't see this film in the middle of London. So that's why we come to Marrakesh to show you a clip from Crash, where Elias Koteas is reenacting the great James Dean car crash for the delight of Holly Hunter and James Spader.
Okay, let's wind it up. Go.
Is this part of the act, or are they really hurt?
I don't know. You can never be sure with Vaughn. This is his show.
Rolf Friedrich was thrown from a Porsche and spent a year in the hospital recovering from his injuries. Donald Turnipseed was found wandering around in a daze, but basically unhurt. James Dean died of a broken neck and became immortal. What's the matter? Hold me up. I'm dizzy. I can't stand.
I know that man's secret. I think he's genuinely hurt.
precursor to the Fast and the Furious movies, those illegal road racing, it seems, with a lot more sex.
You know, a sort of cautionary tale, wear a seatbelt, you know. I remember...
So it was, I don't know what they say to pray.
I met a patrolman then, and he said, you know, always wear a seatbelt. Why? I never unbuckled a dead man.
So there was a health and safety lesson in there for people?
Well, it was all real, you know, stuntmen and reenacting the sexual opportunity of a car crash. You know, it's a strange idea, and it delves deeply into strange places that people go. And Ballard wrote this book, which really took me away, and it was a fantastic book. And I think Cronenberg is a master filmmaker, David, and who's so precise and exact, and he's fabulous to work with. And this was the second collaboration with him, and the film was, you know, it created an outrage beyond what I could believe, you know. Anyway, there it is, and it's just restored. I just restored it into 4K, and was shown at Venice in restoration.
Yeah, and what I think the BFI have just voted it the best film of the 80s.
Yeah, it was voted the best film. It was a film that was banned in the 90s, and now in the current poll is best film of the whatever it
last
was.
20 years,
yeah,
a lot of that century.
So there again, that's another example of a film that was trashed, and then 20 years later, or whatever. There it is.
Well, I mean, when you look back at it really was a big scandal of the time, and especially for you, because you'd been chairman of the British Film Institute, you were almost an establishment figure. Was there a sense that you wanted to say, you know, I'm still a rebel with a cause. I still crashed that.
I didn't understand what I did. I mean, I did what I promoted, and I'm always trying to smuggle into the reality, smuggling the ideas and what is underneath the films into a nice, you know, little, you know, nice box that you can then go through further with something which is more, you know, multi-layered and something which you can, with a filmmaker has got abilities to do that for you. Which is very special. That's what I'm looking for. Always looking for that. I'm looking for the filmmaker that I feel, and it's sort of something that has been driven me from. Must have been. I didn't know at the beginning because I didn't understand what I was doing. At the beginning, you don't understand, and then you come up, and you're through the clouds, and then you're in the clear. And at a certain point, I suppose after Nick, I was in the clear, and I understood at around, you know. It's a bit like Martin Amis's book, you know, his book, Information, you know, and when I turned 40, I received the information. It's about when you're 40, you receive the information. If you haven't, you're never going to get it. But if by 40, you've received the information, and then it's for you to deal with as you want, you know, in what I was doing, you know, for the sort of thing. And I think it's the same for anybody who's trying to create work. You know, your sort of basis has started there, and then by that time, I understood, and I was doing it. I mean, a bit earlier than that, I was sort of focusing. It's not a machine. It's not a big gun. It's a more rifle shot I'm looking for.
But there are still, Jeremy, aren't there many producers that manage to have an imprint all the way through, especially one who's worked with so many different auteur filmmakers, from Oshima to Cronenberg to Bertolucci. There still seems to be a Jeremy Thomas guiding hand in there. How did you manage to work with so many different filmmakers and different visions, and yet still get the Thomas imprint through there? How do you do that?
I suppose I chose what not to do. You know, I was focused on what I wanted to do. You know, I get approached a lot by, and I've made very few, self-critically, very few films with first-timers. Jonathan Glazer, in fact, the next clip. First time, and David Mackenzie, Young Adam, and a few films, which was working with wonderful Tilda Swinton, who I worked with twice, and who's a fantastic actress, who's a wonderful collaborator on films. And that was not enough. I haven't done enough first-time filmmakers, but I don't feel on the journey I was looking to understand what film I was going to be able to deliver by having seen filmmakers work before. You know, it's like looking at a paint. We all can look at paintings, and we recognize a Bonnard, we recognize Van Gogh, or we recognize Picasso or David Hockney. You know, we recognize principally their regular work. You know, all of us, and even in literature, maybe you can. But in cinema, we will be a gaga. Well, hang on, each filmmaker has its imprint, you know. And so I'm trying to understand the imprint that they can do for me with what I want to do, or they want to do with me. They're not only my ideas, I'm not saying they're my ideas, because I join the idea of another. And I get thrown lots of ideas, okay, I'll do that. And because or it's my idea, less my idea, more the other person's idea, that I join, it becomes my idea. You know, and I join the idea, and I share and I help fertilize it.
Yeah.
Basically.
And sometimes you brought them the idea, but quite often it seems that you've met someone and that you've sparked.
More often it's a river of life, and I meet somebody, or I see a film, or something comes past my sort of filtration system of material. Okay, I want to do that. You know, I like that. You know, and it's principally based on the director or the principal artist around the movie. It's not based on an actor. It's not based on the last version of that heritage film was a hit. I'm not interested in heritage cinema at all. I'm not interested in rom-com. I'm not interested in making a particular sort of film. And I avoid certain type of subjects because other people do it better, and I'm interested in real cinema. Yeah. As you can see, you know, I'm interested in things which are not really, they're meant for the cinema and for people whose brains can absorb what you're trying to deliver in a cinematic way, as opposed to a reductive way. And I'm always trying to make it bigger than life and more big screen experience.
But you know, as a British producer, as you say, you travel. You're not a tourist, you travel, but you always come back to London, and that's where they make the BBC heritage cinema. They make the rom-coms, working title.
I like living in the heritage. I live in the countryside with animals around in a little thatched house, and of course, I love that. I was born in England, but I'm not a little Englander. And I love the world. I see the planet as my playground, and I don't see it's a nice place to live in London, and it's a very civilized country, some areas, and it's a good place to live with great communications. And the film business, luckily, a lot of the film business is enacted in English, and there's sort of it's a film center. I mean, there's New York, Los Angeles.
Would we call these British films that we've seen?
They're world cinema, you know. I don't. I don't know. They're not. I don't look to make British cinema. You know, they're categorized by the way you finance them. In fact, did you all know that Morocco won the Palme d'Or in 1952? Who knows? Who can put their hand up? Unless I told them this morning. Who can put their hand up and tell me which film was financed by Morocco, entered the Cannes Film Festival under the Moroccan flag, and won the Palme d'Or? Does anybody tell me? Nobody. See.
One man at the back.
Othello, bravo! There's one film historian in here. Now,
Othello, Orson Welles.
I can tell you this.
Orson Welles, yeah, Othello.
Orson Welles, Othello, financed by the King of Morocco. Anyway, it entered under the Moroccan flag, and they wouldn't play the Moroccan national anthem at the Cannes, 1952. So it's been a long time here.
There will be a film quiz later in the program.
But I only read that this morning. I looked on my iPad this morning, Moroccan cinema, so I could be acquainted or reacquainted with Moroccan cinema. And I saw this incredible Palme d'Or. Okay, what? Orson Welles directed this film, and under Moroccan flag. Anyway, that's funny.
Well, I mean, it chimes at midnight with what you what you're doing.
It's the flag. The flag is the finance of the film. And the nationality, because we live in this world, it becomes, it's world cinema to me. I don't think about that. I managed to get the money somehow from there, and therefore put the flag on it.
Well, we are going to look at a British film next. One of the first-time filmmakers that you work with, one of my favourites of your films, one of my favourite films of the 21st century so far. But it is a British film, but it's about Britons in exile, Britain's expat Brits in Spain, the Costa del Crime, and two fantastic British actors, Ray Winstone and Sir Ben Kingsley, going at it in Jonathan Glazer's spectacular debut film from 2000, Sexy Beast.
It was very funny because, you know, Gandhi...
He was Gandhi for Gandhi. Richard Attenborough.
And then he got hold of the script and I got to do this. I'm going to make it, I'm going to get it in sort of pentameter. I'm going to get the Shakespearean rhythm in this. So excuse the language, but it's beautifully said.
Yeah, well, we've gone from Shakespeare done by Orson Welles here to a bit more Shakespearean English, but I think you'll recognise some of the words here that Ben Kingsley is talking about in Sexy Beast.
Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm some sort of fucking cunt? Some fucking twat? Do you think I'm gonna have that? Do you really think I'm gonna have that? My fucking ears were burning all the way, fucking back in the fucking cab, fucking on fire.
What happened, Doc? What happened? What fucking happened? I'll tell you what fucking happened. You tell me, gal. You tell me what fucking happened. Give me a fucking knockback, you fat fucking cunt.
Problem with the plane, Don?
What's that? What did you fucking say, cunt? What? Problem? Fucking problem? No, mate, no. No fucking problem with the plane, cunt. Fucking plane was fine. Fucking plane was all right. Fucking plane was perfect. It's you. You're the problem. You're the fucking problem. You fucking Dr. White, onkin jam rag, arkin spunk bubble. I'm telling you, H, you keep looking at me, I'm gonna put you in the fucking ground. I promise you.
D, take Jackie and H inside.
Can I get you a drink? Yeah, you do that, you scheming cunt! See if the ladies let you try on one of their panty girdles. You fucking...
Don.
Shut up! Shut up. Not this time, girl. Not this time. Not this fucking time. No! No, 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 no! No! No, 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 no! No! Not this fucking time! No fucking way, no fucking way! No fucking way, no fucking way! You made me look a right cunt! Like a right fucking Mr. Confused. What's he doing? What's Jackie gonna think to that? Not that I care. I'm not into her anymore. That's your fault, fucking me about. Is your middle name ungrateful or what? Ain't you got nothing to say? Just gonna stand there like Porky Pig, hiding behind your wife's skirt, your ex-porn star's wife's skirt. I don't give two fucks what Jackie Big Tits thinks about me coming back. She can think what she fucking likes. I've got enough fucking information on her. So if she's got a pretty face, that could all change. Age changes that. I'm looking forward to seeing her when she's 70. See if she's still coming to cunt, the face like a wrinkled prune. Can't fucking wait. Age to be well gone by then. I'm gonna kill you, gal. I'm gonna fucking kill him. What, you point a gun at me? You point a gun at me? Gonna shoot me? Are you? Gonna shoot me? Go on then, shoot me, it's all right. Shoot me.
That seemed a bit, you need your microphone again. That seemed, that was almost a new jolt for your filmmaking. It started, you know, you work with a bit more younger filmmakers. It's like back to the energy of the hit that you made with Stephen Frears, back to that very cool cutting edgeness that you refound.
Yeah, well, I read that script, you know, I think, well, if you read that script, and you were like me, you loved that script. And it was an amazing script, written in language that I hardly understood. Of course I understood it, but it always had a sort of poetic delivery of how people really speak, you know. There's a Ben Kingsley exists, you know, it really exists. And people who really understood the crime underworld. And then it was presented in a sort of humorous horribleness in a humorous light way. And and I loved it, you know. And Jonathan Glazer, it was a really clever maker of video clip and commercials. And somebody in my office had been showing me these incredible, and there was a video clip of Uncle with Denis Lavant when he was in a tunnel being hit by a car and getting up again. I can't remember the title of the track. Wow, okay, I'm going to do it. And so again, so I've got to have that I'm going to want to do it moment, and that I want to do it. It was before Ben Kingsley and Ray Winston and Amanda Redman and Calvin Kendall. Calvin Kendall, the actor who plays H, was Rex Harrison and Kay Kendall's son.
Really?
Yeah.
He does look a bit like Rex Harrison.
Right. Yeah. And he was called Calvin Kendall because Kay Kendall, you know, the great film stars, Rex Harrison and Kay Kendall. And this man, Calvin, and he was in Eureka as well. So he was an actor I worked with a couple of times. It was very nice.
Getting Ben Kingsley to do that, I mean, it was a shock for everyone, as you say. He
wanted to do it. You could see it, you know. No. He wanted to get the expletives and the swearing into it. And if he wanted to change the scene, he couldn't. I've rehearsed it 100 times in front of the mirror. And he had got it down, and he could act and swear and get it perfect every take. Boom. If you wanted to change it, no, I can't. I've got it, you know. And he really was convincing. And he's not like that. It was incredible acting, body acting. He was so strong when he arrived. We were shooting a film in the scene in the airport. All the crew were terrified. It was only me who had lunch with him. Everybody else, they were terrified. They all stood in a corner having lunch. And everybody, and Jonathan was out rehearsing some of the scene. And there was, you know, he walked in and he was really giving off strong danger. And I've seen it a few times with actors, like with Michael Fassbender, aging his body and his method. It was unbelievable watching somebody transform themselves. And then you see the really great actor giving you something incredible. And I've always loved actors, and I have an unusual relationship that I love actors. And all the people who are in my movies, I have the opposite relationship with most producers. I love the actors, and they're part of my group. You know, we're working together to try and help this filmmaker make the best film we can, and then you have a esprit de corps.
Because we often think of you working with directors, but there are the actors that you mentioned that you come back to.
Come back and back to.
And Ben Kingsley, extraordinary in that. In fact, it reminds me, you mentioned earlier your favourite film ever is Performance. It seems a little bit of an homage to that. There's that British underground. Yeah. There's that strength. There's a Shakespearean actor in there.
Yeah, the edges. It's around the edges.
Well, it's a brilliant film, and also a bit of punk as well, because it opens with Ray Winston.
Well, you know, I was involved with the Sex Pistols. I produced the Sex Pistols' second film, was the Rock and Roll Swindle I did. I was very enamored with the Sex Pistols, and I like to see the death of all that. And that was not the Sex Pistols, but the Sex Pistols was like a gigantic punctuation mark in music, and anybody can do it. Just get a few minutes. You don't need to be Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin with $1 million behind you. You can just be a couple of urchins, and it was it was quite inspirational being in that movement.
Yeah.
As a grown-up.
The Jonathan Glazer, of course, has gone on to make Birth. Infrequent filmmaker, doesn't make many films, picks his projects very carefully, very slowly, but when they come, they're sort of from another planet.
He's a wonderful filmmaker, yeah. Do
you retain those relationships with the people you work with?
The ones that want me back, you know, and as I say, sometimes I choose the people, and sometimes I choose to work with the directors, and the directors choose to work with me. And then my repeat business, which was Oshima, Nick Rogue, Skolimowski, Wim. I mean, there's some, and Bernard, obviously my biggest relationship, 25 years and 6 movies. And Cronenberg, they were my friends. You know, we were colleagues, and it was a love affair with each director, and with Garrone and Mickey, and you have to work like, I want to like the people and understand and like and be affectionate with the people I work with. It's pointless otherwise. It's the cinema conflict behind the scenes. Yeah, it happens, but it's what I want to avoid. I want to avoid that on my sets. I want to have everybody having a good time, hard work, stressful work, but having a good time making the movie together. And that's an important aspect to get the best at the end.
you mentioned Takeshi Miike, who's made 110 movies, I think it is, a few of them with you. What attracted you to his work? Because you're still working with him even now.
Well, I saw Audition. I saw Audition, and again, it's sort of my twisted mind. It really appealed to me, you know, sort of. It was an amazing film. Wow, not blew my head off. And so I had a Tanizaki book which I wanted to do, and I met him, and I said, I want to do this film with you. He read the book and said, you're completely insane. Even I couldn't make this film. I recommend this book. It's called The Secret Life of the Lord Musashi. It's an incredible book. And but he said, funny enough, I'd like to make a film with you, and would you like to do 13 Assassins with me? Would I ever? You know, samurai movie. I loved samurai movies, and I'd never really made a samurai movie. So I started with him, and I've had a very fertile relationship with him, 5 movies. I think I'm on my 5th movie. No, I'm starting a 5th movie with him. And I love working in Japan with Oshima, and I enjoy being there. And it's a very strong film culture, a culture that, going back to the beginning, I loved a lot when I was young. I like Japanese cinema. It really got me.
How easy is it, how difficult is it for a Western producer to work with that Japanese culture? Because you do it so often, you must understand it.
It's all by luck, you know. It's all river of life, you know. I like sushi, you know. I like sake. I like being in Tokyo. I don't want to live in Japan. I like living in London, but to make a movie there, or to make a movie with, we made Brother with Kitano. We made it in LA, and we took a Japanese crew, and I was a bridge for that. And it was obvious why he asked me to do that film with him, because you know, when we became friendly on Merry Christmas, when he wanted to make a film in English language, in a lot of it in LA, he came to me. You know, so that was, and I, of course, obviously, having seen all his incredible films, I wanted to be involved with that, and it was, you know, there I was with the sort of the Yakuza in LA, and it was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, the one that we've got from your work with Takeshi Miike isn't 13 Assassins. It's the most recent one, First Love, which you were in Cannes with earlier this year.
Yeah. Before you press it on, I wanted to say, in the work that I've been doing, there's always been the inventiveness of trying to steal and not have the budget of the studio or a very big financier to remain independent. You know? So in this film, which is again quite a low budget movie, there was an incredible scene in it, but can we afford to do that? It's going to cost $5 million or $4 million to do this scene if we're going to do it correctly. Anyway, you'll see in the movie how you save $5 million. Okay.
So this is how you save $5 million, and stay in the Japanese tradition.
And stay in the Japanese tradition, more than the Japanese tradition, and to work with a master of inventiveness, who, when you say to them, we haven't got the cash for this, okay, I'll think of something.
And this is what they came up with. anime. That's where you went.
Yeah, it was very, very funny, very good. Believe in Japanese cars. I love that line.
It's a great line. And then you've got crash written across the screen again. So you can repeat. Jeremy, fantastic talking about your career, but it's still going. Your career. 70 years. You were 70 years old this year. 70 years young, I would say. You're still working with some great filmmakers that keep interesting you. Matteo Garrone, the Italian filmmaker behind Gomorrah, you then did Tale of Tales and Dogman with. We've got a Christmas treat for everyone.
Yeah, this is something which is a Christmas treat, and it's in the vein of the work. But this is obviously Garrone's movie, totally, and I was very happy to work with him. And this is a telling of Collodi's book, Pinnochio. You know.
So this is the big.
Anyway, this is a sort of a very radical film, but it's for children, you know.
So it is for children.
It's also for the child and every adult will be moved by the film, but it's a children's film, and I've never made been involved with children's films. I've been totally X-rated up until now, but they've all been pretty much that, and or adult films.
Although the film you made yourself was All the Little Animals.
Yeah, I directed a film with Christian Bale, and it was just something I wanted to tell, a story about animals, which I love animals, and I wanted to tell about animal rights. I was fed up with all the other rights. How about 10 animal rights, And I did that movie, All the Little Animals, which people thought was a children's film, but in fact it was a grown-ups film. But it was a stupid title for me, but it was the title of the book.
But this one, so this is a children's film that Matteo's making, but going back to the original fairy tale of
Collodi's book,
of Pinocchio.
And it's very Italian, and it's smell Italy in it, and the beautiful artisanal way of Italian cinema, which I love. The way that it's very, very, everywhere is artisanal, but it's very special in Italy in that in working around the world, I get to see different cinemas, how they work and how and this has got all that. So this is a sneak
preview for you. I don't know if you'd have seen this. This is the trailer for Matteo.
Nobody's seen this.
Nobody has seen this. An exclusive that Matteo and Jeremy are presenting to you here is the first trailer for Matteo Garrone's Pinocchio.
Avevo pensato di fabbricarmi con le mie mani, proprio da me, un burattino di legno. Pinocchio, dai, di qualcosa.
Babbo!
Svegliatevi! Mi è nato un figlio!
Così, da un giorno all'altro?
Da un giorno all'altro, da un minuto all'altro. Guarda, Pinocchio, guarda. 1 e 2. Se fai come me, fra 2 o 3 giorni già puoi camminare da solo.
Pinocchio!
Un burattino come noi.
Tu chi sei?
Pinocchio!
Ah, sì! Lo seminiamo, nasce una piantina. Stracolma di zecchini.
Sono stato derubato!
Mettetelo in prigione!
Come in prigione? Che sta succedendo al naso?
Madame Messier! Ecco a voi il succhino Pinocchio!
Aiuto! Babbo!
Pinocchio.
Perché sei grande?
È un segreto.
Io non voglio essere un burattino. Voglio diventare un bambino come tutti gli altri.
Very exciting. So in Italy this Christmas?
19th of December in 600 screens.
And then around the world?
We hope.
We hope. Well, Jeremy, that is a fantastic Christmas present. Brings us right up to date with your extraordinary producing career. It remains for me to thank you so much for sharing that career with us on screen and looking at the clips today. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Thomas.